Elizabeth Taylor, the legendary actress known for her mesmerizing violet eyes and iconic roles, had one final request that truly reflected her dramatic and unique personality. Even in death, she wanted to make a statement. Taylor arranged for her funeral to start 15 minutes late. This was her way of ensuring she arrived fashionably late to her own burial. This final act was a nod to her lifelong reputation as a glamorous diva who always kept people waiting. Taylor, who converted to Judaism later in life, was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Following Jewish customs, her burial took place quickly after her passing. However, she added her own twist. She was laid to rest in a custom-made, luxury casket that was worth thousands of dollars. The casket, made of mahogany and lined with red velvet, was as extravagant as the actress herself. Her final wishes captured her spirit, elegant, bold, and unforgettable. Even in death, Elizabeth Taylor ensured she left behind a legacy of glamour, humor, and charm, proving that true Hollywood icons never fade away. Joan Crawford, the fierce and glamorous star of Hollywood's golden age, was known for her strict discipline, icy demeanor, and legendary feuds, especially with Bette Davis. Even in death, her burial carried an air of mystery and controversy. Despite being one of the most famous actresses of her time, Crawford had a surprisingly modest funeral, in accordance with her own wishes. She requested a small, private service with no elaborate Hollywood spectacle. One of the strangest aspects of her burial was that she was cremated, an unusual choice for a star of her stature in that era. Her ashes were placed in a simple urn at Ferncliff Cemetery in New York. However, what made her burial even more peculiar was that two of her adopted children, Christina and Christopher, infamously refused to attend her funeral. Their absence wasn't surprising. Joan's strained relationship with them was well documented, especially after Christina later published Mommy Dearest, a shocking tell-all book exposing the alleged abuse they suffered. Crawford's final wishes reflected her complex personality, private, controlled, and detached from the family drama that followed her even after death. Her burial was as enigmatic as her on-screen presence, leaving behind a legacy of both admiration and controversy. Bela Lugosi, the Hungarian-American actor best known for his iconic portrayal of Dracula, 1931, made an eerie and unforgettable final request. He wished to be buried in full Dracula costume. Despite playing many roles throughout his career, Lugosi's identity had become inseparable from the legendary vampire. When he passed away in 1956, his family honored his unusual wish, dressing him in the classic black cape he wore as Count Dracula. Lugosi's burial at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California, added a Gothic touch to his legend. However, the decision to bury him in his Dracula attire wasn't entirely his own. While he had expressed deep attachment to the role, it was actually his ex-wife, Lillian, and son, Bela Jr., who finalized this theatrical farewell. Whether Lugosi himself made the request remains debated, but the result was fitting, forever immortalized as the creature of the night that made him famous. Even in death, Bela Lugosi remained a symbol of horror and mystery. His burial ensured that he would forever rest as Dracula, blending reality with the chilling legend he helped create, making it one of the most unusual final wishes in Hollywood history. Wallace Reed, one of the most beloved leading men of the silent film era, had a tragic downfall that shocked Hollywood. Known for his good looks and charm, Reed became a victim of Hollywood's dark side, morphine addiction, which ultimately led to his early death at just 31 years old in 1923. Despite his tragic end, his burial carried an air of dignity, but there was an unusual aspect to it. Reed's wife, actress Dorothy Davenport, was determined to turn his death into a lesson for the film industry. She ensured that his funeral had a strong anti-drug message, making it one of the earliest Hollywood funerals used to raise awareness about addiction. He was laid to rest in Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but instead of the usual glamorous Hollywood send-off, Dorothy wore mourning attire for years, using his death to advocate against substance abuse in a dramatic and public way. While Reed himself may not have requested anything unusual, the way his burial was handled was unique, turning a silent film star's tragic end into a public statement that haunted Hollywood for years to come. Pola Negri, the Polish-born Hollywood siren of the silent film era, was known for her grand gestures both on and off the screen. Her final burial request was no different. It was as dramatic and theatrical as her legendary love affairs. Negri was famously linked to Rudolph Valentino, the ultimate heartthrob of the silent film era. When Valentino died unexpectedly in 1926, Negri staged an over-the-top display of grief, collapsing dramatically at his funeral. Some believed it was genuine heartbreak, while others thought it was a publicity stunt. Years later, when Negri passed away in 1987 at the age of 90, she made a peculiar request. She wanted to be buried with her pet dog's ashes. Her beloved companion had been her closest friend in her later years, and she insisted they remain together for eternity. She was laid to rest at Calvary Cemetery in Los Angeles, with her final resting place reflecting both her deep love for those she cherished and her flair for the dramatic. Even in death, Pola Negri ensured her story remained unforgettable, blending romance, mystery, and Hollywood spectacle into one final performance. Tallulah Bankhead, the bold, whiskey-voiced actress known for her sharp wit and scandalous lifestyle, made sure her final farewell was just as unconventional as her life. A rebel both on and off the screen, she was famous for her love of parties, risque humor, and complete disregard for Hollywood norms. When she passed away in 1968, Bankhead had a unique final wish. She wanted to be buried with a bottle of bourbon, a pack of cigarettes, and a gold cigarette lighter. These items perfectly symbolized the glamorous, hedonistic life she had lived. Although there are conflicting reports on whether her exact wish was honored, her funeral was anything but ordinary. In true Tallulah fashion, mourners allegedly whispered her famous last words, "Codeine bourbon," a fitting farewell for a woman who lived by her own rules. She was laid to rest in St. Paul's Churchyard in Maryland, far from Hollywood's glitz but never forgotten. Even in death, Bankhead remained the ultimate embodiment of excess, wit, and defiance, ensuring that her legacy would remain as unforgettable as the life she led. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood, was known for his rugged charm and unforgettable performances, most notably as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. Despite his larger-than-life persona, Gable's final burial request was deeply personal rather than extravagant. When he passed away in 1960, he made sure that he would be buried beside the one true love of his life, Carole Lombard. Lombard, Gable's third wife, had tragically died in a plane crash in 1942. Though Gable remarried after her death, his heart always belonged to Lombard. When he passed away from a heart attack at the age of 59, his final wish was to rest beside her at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. His request was honored, and he was laid to rest in a simple crypt next to Lombard, finally reunited with the love he had lost so many years before. Despite being one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, Gable's burial had no lavish spectacle, just a quiet and heartfelt tribute to the woman he never stopped loving. His final resting place tells a story of love, loss, and devotion, proving that even the biggest stars long for something deeply human, a love that lasts beyond life itself. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling Hollywood legend known for his adventurous spirit and wild lifestyle, made sure that even in death, he remained true to his persona. Famous for roles in The Adventures of Robin Hood and Captain Blood, Flynn was just as daring off-screen, living a life filled with excess, scandal, and endless parties. When he passed away in 1959 at the age of 50, Flynn's final burial request was both fitting and bizarre. He wished to be buried with a bottle of his favorite whiskey, a flask of vodka, and a handful of cigars. It was a tribute to the hard-drinking, fun-loving lifestyle he had embraced. His body was laid to rest in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, but not without one last peculiar twist. Allegedly, Flynn had once joked that he wanted his tombstone to read, "If this is what they call dying, I don't think much of it." Though his final marker was more traditional, Flynn's burial reflected the larger-than-life way he had lived. A true Hollywood rogue to the end, his farewell was as rebellious and legendary as the man himself. Jean Harlow, Hollywood's original blonde bombshell, captivated audiences with her beauty, charm, and magnetic screen presence. But behind the glamorous facade was a tragic story of a star who died far too young. At just 26 years old, Harlow passed away in 1937 due to kidney failure, leaving Hollywood in shock. Her final burial request was both romantic and heartbreaking. She wished to be buried in the same negligee she had worn in Libeled Lady, 1936, one of her most famous films. She was also laid to rest with a white gardenia in her hand and a note from her longtime love, William Powell, tucked inside her casket. Powell, devastated by her passing, purchased a $25,000 private crypt for her at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. The inscription on her crypt simply reads, "Our baby." Though she was Hollywood's ultimate symbol of glamour and sensuality, Jean Harlow's final resting place reflects something much deeper, a life of love, tragedy, and the fleeting nature of stardom. Even in death, she remains an icon of old Hollywood's golden era, forever frozen in time as the silver screen's most enchanting beauty. Mary Pickford, the America's sweetheart of the silent film era, was one of Hollywood's first true superstars. A co-founder of United Artists and one of the most powerful women in early cinema, she built an empire both on and off the screen. However, in her later years, Pickford became increasingly reclusive, retreating to her grand estate, Pickfair, where she spent her final days in solitude. When she passed away in 1979 at the age of 87, her final burial request reflected both her deep religious beliefs and her desire for privacy. She was cremated, an unusual choice for a star of her stature, and her ashes were interred at the Garden of Memory in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Unlike many of her Golden Age contemporaries, Pickford did not want a lavish Hollywood funeral. Instead, she requested a quiet, private service with only a handful of close family members present. Though she once lit up the silver screen with her charm and talent, her burial was a stark contrast to her fame, simple, understated, and away from the public eye. Even in death, Mary Pickford remained true to the values that defined her life: independence, dignity, and a legacy that shaped the very foundation of Hollywood. Rudolph Valentino, Hollywood's first great Latin lover, left behind a legacy of romance, mystery, and untimely tragedy. When he died suddenly in 1926 at just 31 years old from complications of peritonitis, his death sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. His funeral became one of the most dramatic spectacles in film history, with thousands of hysterical fans crowding the streets of New York, some even allegedly taking their own lives in grief. Though Valentino himself had not planned for his death, his final resting place was chosen in a most unusual way. His close friend, actress Pola Negri, declared herself his widow, despite them never marrying, and made an over-the-top public display of mourning. However, his burial was even more bizarre. Since he had not purchased a plot, he was placed in an empty crypt at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, loaned by a friend, June Mathis. The crypt was supposed to be temporary, but Valentino remains there to this day, never moved to a permanent resting place. Even after death, Valentino's legend only grew. Each year, a mysterious lady in black would visit his grave, leaving a single red rose in tribute. Whether she was a devoted fan or an old lover remains a mystery, but it added to the haunting allure of Hollywood's most tragic heartthrob. Greta Garbo, the enigmatic Swedish actress known for her beauty, talent, and reclusive nature, lived her life shrouded in mystery, and she intended to keep it that way even in death. Famous for her desire to be alone, she spent the latter part of her life in near-total seclusion in New York, avoiding the public eye despite her legendary status. When she passed away in 1990 at the age of 84, her burial wishes were as private and unconventional as her life. Garbo had been cremated shortly after her death, but for nearly a decade, her ashes remained unburied. Finally, in 1999, they were taken to Sweden, fulfilling her wish to be laid to rest in her homeland. She was buried in the Skogskirkegarden Cemetery in Stockholm, a peaceful and forested resting place far from the glitz of Hollywood. Garbo's choice to be buried away from the world she once dominated reflected her lifelong need for solitude. Even in death, she maintained her mystery: no grand Hollywood farewell, no public spectacle, just a quiet return to the place she once called home. Mae West, the sultry, sharp-witted actress known for her risque humor and undeniable confidence, lived life on her own terms, and she intended to go out the same way. Famous for her suggestive one-liners and bold personality, West built an image of timeless glamour and sensuality that she fiercely maintained even into old age. When she passed away in 1980 at the age of 87, she had one final, extravagant request. She wanted to be buried in a plush pink gown, looking as glamorous in death as she had in life. True to her iconic persona, she was dressed in a stunning pink formal dress, complete with perfectly styled hair and makeup, ensuring that she looked every bit the Hollywood queen she had always been. West was laid to rest in Cypress Hills Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York, near her family. Unlike many of her contemporaries who sought grand Hollywood burials, West's funeral was relatively private, though she remained larger than life even in her final farewell. Her burial solidified her status as an eternal star, forever glamorous, forever unforgettable, and forever Mae West. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.